Man, this pack is getting kind of heavy.
Okay, folks, we are in the Quonset Coastal Highway, but we are planning to make a trip to back to Mystery Lake and Forlorn Muskeg. We've got pretty much everything we need here. Uh-oh, what's up with my... some sort of problem with my headphones right now. Okay, what is going on here? Mr. B. Alright, I'm trying to figure out why I'm not getting any sound out of my headphones. Nothing. Okay, it's weird. Got no sound. No sound whatsoever. Sound is clearly being outputted, it's just not making it to my headphones. Let's try something else here. God, this is always the nightmare, right? Something fails to work. Yeah, hold on a second. We'll figure this out. Where's my sound going to? I don't know if my headphones just died. Yeah, you can hear me. I can't hear a thing, which means I'll be attacked by wolves in no time. Let's see. What can I do to get my sound back? Yeah, I can't even hear like anything at all. Okay, we'll try this. We'll go wireless and see if that works. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Come on, guys. We'll be operational soon. I'm pretty confident about that. Yeah, I know it's annoying. It's just like I figure everything's kind of not working tonight, which is strange. It was working earlier. I just got off of a Zoom call, of all things, so I know this thing should be working. So I don't know why it suddenly stopped working. Oh, I can hear things now. Yeah, I got limited I hear some, but not all sounds right now through the headphones. But it's better than nothing, right? So we will operate and just yell at me if we're about to be eaten by a wolf. Ugh, what a pain. Okay, so our plan basically, I'm getting no, like usually when you pick stuff up, you hear the sound that confirms that you're picking stuff up, and I get none of that. I get the sound of my feet moving. Okay, but I do owe a hydrate to Roller. Thanks. Good to see you, Rootbeard. And welcome, Vaka. Yeah, good to see you all. Let's see here. And let's see a little bit about myself. Yo, more stuff that's not running right now. Looks like I have to re-log in to this thing so that my commands actually work. Oh, there it did load up. There we go. And we are doing a challenge. This is a version of You Know Nothing. This is based on a generator that I wrote to randomly generate custom settings for custom runs. The current version, 2.0, allows us to set the ballpark difficulty. So we did a number of attempts at the interloper and above setting, and those were really, really hard. Like, I am an interloper player, but it goes between interloper is the low end, and then it maxes out. It goes up to the really, really hardest settings across the board. And if you get really unlucky with one of those, yeah, it's absolutely brutal. So we did a few of those. Some of them made it further than others, and then we decided we'd try something between Stalker and Interloper. So we got a random one in which I just get the code and I don't know the settings, and so we are playing through this trying to figure out our settings. Let's see, how are we doing? Water, let's take another water with this. Okay, so our goal is basically to get out of here, get back to Mystery Lake, Forlorn Muskeg. We finally have the hammer, but we've already eaten everything in Coastal Highway, Crumbling Highway, and Desolation Point. So returning down that path will just be really expensive. I've done this before where I've like tried to double back after I've already been through a region without a bow, and it's just bad news. Okay, we have a handful of torches. Let's go. If you go out to the woods today, sure of a big surprise. Yeah. So I'm I'm a streamer based in Vancouver, BC. I actually just finished watching the last two episodes of this season's Alone, which turned out quite good in the end. Interesting ending, yeah. Final contestants all were very interesting. And their choices about why they decided to leave. No one, I was like intrigued that the three of them, none of the three of them ended up doing medical evacs. Although it was clear two of them were pretty close to the edge on that. But anyways, yeah, I don't know, I like the series. It's the heart of it is a lot of, you know, the big questions about how do you keep yourself mentally sane, how do you hold it together in those final days, after winter is truly set in, and it's just a mind game about like who's left, who's going to stick it out until the very end, and is it ultimately worth it? I found it really interesting when one of the contestants talked about the fact that, you know, the money actually wouldn't be a blessing to him and his family. He thought it would, and then he realized it wouldn't. That there's other things he needed to do. So it was really interesting. I wonder if we could work our way up here. Looks like it's almost doable, right? Look at that. Thanks for the follow, Becca. Yeah, so are you a longtime TLD player or new to the game or just like watching us suffer? I've been playing the game on and off since late beta. So February 2017 is when I purchased the game. The official release of the game was in I think October, November 2017. And then I took a bit of a break. I played for a while and then took a break, and then I got back in. Seriously, got back in probably about, I guess, 2.5 years ago, and I've been playing and streaming since then. When I first got back, I was still primarily a stalker player, and I really was terrified of a playing Interloper. But I watched some really great Interloper players, and it made me wonder if I could push myself to the next level to tackle Interloper. And and that didn't work. No, and we failed a lot. I failed an awful lot during that time period, but it was where and how you learn. And now I've been doing this, and I'm very comfortable with it. I'm no Athenion. You won't see me at the top of a mountain shooting an arrow down to kill a bear below, which is absolutely wild. Yeah. Oh, if you just got the DLC, you're in for a treat. It's there's so much content and fun to be had with the DLC. Yeah, failing with style. That's ultimately, in a way, like so. There's something I teach. I've taught creative writing and I mentor people. I'm the author of 2 books of poetry and have a lot of degrees that say like I know a lot about writing, which is a lie because none of us really know that much. The truth is we're winging it to some degree, not completely. But anyways, I've done a fair bit of translation as well, literary translation. And the thing that I always go back to when you're translating stuff is that ultimately, I think good translation fosters a sense of humility because you realize how little you can actually accomplish in the act of translation, that you will fail. And so I frequently tell people translation, literary translation, is the art of beautiful failure. You will fail. It is impossible to render something from one language into another language, especially poetry, perfectly. There will always be things that are lost. There will always be nuances and references and ideas that you just can't get across, or something tonally, something that is just too difficult to bring across gets lost. And yet we try, and our goal is to bring as much of that beauty over. So I think like TLD is also an act of beautiful failure. You know, we try. We know ultimately we're not going to be perfectly successful. There is no win. There's no end game in this. But to do as best as you can as long as you can, and you try to live and die as beautifully or as heroically or as stupidly as you can. But in a way that's memorable, in a way that is somehow transcendent of, you know, and then you take the lesson that you learned and you put it into the next one, next life, next life, next life. So yeah, failing with style, definitely how I feel about it. Okay. Then we have a choice here. We could take the shortcut up to the path to Pleasant Valley, or we can go back to Mystery Lake. Mystery Lake, it's a straight shot into Forlorn Muskeg. Pleasant Valley, not so straight shot. So I think we're going, we do have the hammer now, right? We have, yeah, if anyone's coming in a little bit late and wondering why we are not going to Desolation Point to forge, it's because I stupidly went to Desolation Point without checking every single location in Coastal Highway. And assuming that we didn't have the hammer in Coastal Highway and that I'd wasted my time. And so I thought I might as well do a quick loot of, you know, Crumbling Highway and Desolation Point and get out of here. And then on the way out, I passed by the trailer, which is on the way out to Pleasant Valley, and I found the hammer. And I was like, oh, this sucks. And then I remember I left all my hides and guts and saplings down at the Quonset. And it's like, I got to go back to the Quonset and gather all my stuff and then exit. And I've already eaten my way through Desolation Point and Crumbling Highway. So without a bow, there's like no source of food. So yeah, we just got to leave it. Because I made that mistake before thinking, oh, I have just barely enough food that I could go in there, craft the arrowhead, you know, forge the arrowheads, make the knife, and then like somehow speed craft the bow and some arrows and be hunting, thinking that it'll take me 24 hours to do something like that. And the reality is, no, it takes longer than that, and you'll be starving soon enough. And then you're fragile all through that state, especially if a blizzard sets in. So rather go someplace that I didn't completely loot, which is en route to a forge. Yeah. Things we do. Oh, I just realized I'm looking at, there we go. Things we do. Oh, we got a different problem here. You guys can't hear the desktop now. Can you? There we go. You can hear it. Okay, yeah, I was like thinking, looking at the desktop audio meter, it's like, there's no sound going through. Oh no. But now you can hear the crunching of snow. So yeah, I'm still working out what my schedule is going to be for the next few months. Tonight is my last night of freedom because tomorrow the fall semester for my my master's in library and information science starts up again. So this is my second year in the program, and yeah, I have 3 courses plus a professional experience, which is basically instead of a class, I'm working for 10 hours a week for on a project for one of the librarians at the library. And then I have 20 hours a week of work. And then, yeah, so it's going to be a busy term. Things we do for food, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty certain we checked this already. We're going to pop in anyways. Grab some sticks. We'll probably need more torches anyways. Do I see a torch? I see a torch. We've already been here. We'll pop in anyways. Say hi.
I'm not sure I can carry
Hi,
much more.
folks. Everything is as we left it. Nothing, no surprises here. Okay. So yeah, I think what that's going to translate into is my schedule's changed slightly. I'm running 2 D&D games this term, one on Friday nights and one on Sunday nights. So no streams on those nights, no Friday or Sunday night stream. And then my Wednesdays are pretty full. I have class from 9 to 5. I think that's going to translate into me most likely not streaming Wednesday nights because I'll just be too tired. So then I think my stream schedule is probably going to end up being Monday, usually Tuesday, unless I have a lot of work due for Wednesday. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. If we're lucky. But maybe I should just make it Monday,
This pack is getting
Thursday, Saturday? I don't know. We'll see. I'll try to do 4 days. I'll give that a try this week. The other thing that I am trying to do is give myself space to be social. I have a cool roommate, and we like doing stuff together, and I would love to spend some time. I think we're talking about having possibly a regular movie night, so that might mean I stream a little later on some nights. We'll see. We'll work it out. Yeah, but I've definitely learned over the last few years since I started streaming the importance of balance. Some people stream all the time. I feel like you can do that. If you're reliant on this as some form of income, then I think maybe there's a motivation to do that. But then it really becomes a job, right? And I love streaming. I love being in these chats and getting to know people and be able to share parts of my creative life and my academic life, and both like the stuff I do in D&D and the stuff I do in other areas. It's all fun to share. And if I'm working on games and game development stuff, it's fun to share that. But I also need to spend time with people too. And when you live with someone, right, it's important to like nurture that relationship, so you're not just two strangers living in one space, but you're actually it's kind of a household, right? Yeah. So that's how I look at it. It's like when I moved back from the States and was staying with my mother for a few years, you know, and helping her out. She had a basement renovation that was underway, and I was kind of rebuilding after a failed academic search in the U.S. I'd finished my PhD and worked for a couple years as a consultant, but I was having difficulty navigating through the immigration process to get a green card because I was doing it at the wrong time. It was like started at the end of 2015, but by 2016, U.S. immigration policy was in shambles. No one knew what the priorities were, or the priorities were like find ways to delay or to reject as many applications as possible. So it was hard because, you know, I had hopes of getting through this process quickly so that I would be a viable candidate for teaching positions. And it didn't work out. So, I mean, the weird thing was it worked out and it didn't work out. It worked out such that it took 4 years to go through the process. And then when I was finally at the finish line, I had one interview and another $1,000 of legal expenses and filing fees to go through. I was just simply tapped. I was out of funding. I was out of visa statuses, and I just couldn't figure out how to cross the finish line because I didn't even have a job waiting for me at that point. And I was like, okay, then I'm just going to be too late to compete with anything, with anyone for academic positions. So it's like, you know, maybe I just pack up and go back to Canada, because I'm a citizen in Canada, so I have, here in Canada, I have more options in terms of work. I don't have to file as much paperwork to get stuff done. I have access to grants and arts funding, and I have opportunities to work in a variety of different fields. And so I was like, I guess that's it. I guess I just have to go back. And initially I felt kind of like a failure doing that, but within about a year I was like, no, this was the right decision. And then the pandemic happened. And it was like, okay, I'm so glad to be in Canada. Yeah. Yeah, trust me, you do not want to be in the States in the middle of the pandemic as a non-US citizen, in the middle of an immigration limbo situation because they were processing paperwork, but you weren't authorized. Like, you couldn't legally get a hold of, without paying an enormous amount of money, you couldn't get a hold of any sort of health care protections whatsoever. Nor could you sustain yourself long term, you know, in limbo. So,
I'm starving.
yeah, basically in limbo, it's a situation where your paperwork is in progress. If you leave the country, you will forfeit your application. But you're not authorized to work in a traditional job. Yeah. It's like, so how does that work? How does that work? Well, the expectation then is that you're independently wealthy. It's like, so you can live without work for a long period of time. It's like, who's able to do that? It's like, that's just ridiculous. Yeah. Yeah, there was a moment where I thought I should make an actual a green card game, you know, whether as a board game or as a computer game, just to illustrate the complexity and the frustration of trying to navigate through the legal process. There is a flow chart that's out there that really reflects that, where it's like, when you try to find all the paths to the green card, you start realizing how needlessly complicated and expensive and impossible most of the routes are. And then ultimately, like, the people that get through are the people that have enormous amounts of money and basically buy their way through. You know, that's how you do it. And for pretty much everyone else, it's like near impossible to get through. You know, you might have to wait like 19 years in some paths. It's like 19 years to get yourself to a green card. So then you'd be reliant on other visa statuses during that entire time. And those visa statuses may not necessarily authorize you to work. So.
Oh, so, yeah. That's a good one.
But in the end, you know, thanks to coming back to Canada, I ended up serving as the virtual writer-in-residence for the Saskatchewan Writers Guild, which was like a 3 or 4 month position, but it paid decent money, and it gave me a stronger foothold within the literary community. And then later on, I then got the opportunity to serve as the writer-in-residence for the local public library system. And that was a 10-month gig that paid it paid me to work 1 day a week. 1 day a week in person, and then a certain number of hours, you know, to do programming and events online. And it was what, $40,000 to do that. It was fantastic and gave me the freedom to, and that's the reason. Like, if the legal process worked, people wouldn't try to do things illegally. So the best solution to addressing illegal immigration is to fix legal immigration. But if you don't fix legal immigration, then people keep trying to find other ways, because often they're desperate. They're desperate to be reunited with family. They're desperate to figure out a way to raise funds to support struggling family back home. But, you know, if there's no path forward, then they'll do what they can. Yeah. Encounter roleplay, a long last stream. Oh, okay. I don't know if I ever saw that. Toronto area trying to get USA citizenship. It's just a nightmare. It's just such a terrible system. Yeah. So yeah, in the end, what happened to me was I basically got near the finish line. All I had left was the interview and the $1,000, and I just simply said, can't do it. I just can't make that work. But the good news was that I'd already, at that point, received the authorization, which does not expire. So I am authorized to receive a green card, or at least to have that final interview. And so if I were ever to resume a green card application process, I would start from that point and not from the prove that you're eligible for a green card stage. So I'm already eligible. I just didn't have a job waiting for me. Couldn't see a financial way to survive. You know, the housing that I had at a super cheap rent, I had lucked out on this really great rent situation. And then that collapsed because the landlady had a grandson, and his girlfriend needed desperately, so his family member needed to move into a place, and he had just gotten out of prison and no one would rent to him. So she said, like, I hate to kick you out, but I mean, yeah, next month you've got to be gone. So that was kind of rough, you know, and so I ended up moving back in with my aunt and uncle that were in the area. This is outside of Portland. And, you know, that was kind of a temporary solution until they decided to sell their house and move to Maine. So it's like, really, there's just like not a path forward here. It was just like, I could either try to find housing in Portland, and the Portland's rates were skyrocketing. I was like, I can't afford it anymore. Yeah. I think a lot of people, like, just don't understand the complexities the very, very many levels of complexity that are related to anyone trying to move to a new country and go through whatever the immigration process is it's not like a one-page form that you fill out that, oh, you didn't fill out the one-page form, that's why you don't have it. It's like, no. Even to come to Canada, it's pretty tricky now to come to Canada. There's a whole like point system that, like, depending on your educational background, your age, a lot of other factors, they tally up these points and they determine whether or not an applicant is suitable. And so if you're too old and you have the wrong set of skills, they may turn you down and say, like, we don't think that it's going to work for you, so we're going to decline your application. And then they try to recruit people that are they're young, that are at the early part of their careers, they're going to be building families, building wealth, creating opportunities in the community. So that's who they're investing in. That's who they want to draw. But like if you're in your 40s or 50s or 60s, I'm not in my 60s, then you're like not who they really want unless you're a celebrity and you're bringing in wealth because of your celebrity status, or you're bringing in wealth because of the fact that you own a business. Then that's going to give you points to get you in. And the States has like a less nailed down system. Instead, the States is like, we leave it to each case officer to make a gut instinct decision. They don't say gut instinct, but they basically, it's each case officer's prerogative about whether or not someone gets accepted. There's some loose guidelines, and then there's a lot of, basically they give them enough rules and guidelines to reject basically everyone. And then they let them say like who should be accepted, That's really like a crappy system. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be good to keep walking out there in this. I mean, we could, but I just... Yeah, exactly. It's hypocritical. It really is. It's like, no one, when people came over in the 19th century or earlier, there was just not the same sort of obsession with paperwork. In the 19th century and early 20th century, they started to keep records. But even then, there was a lot of leeway, I suspect it was, I would have to go back and look, but I would suspect it was the Cold War that really, either it was the end of World War II or it was Cold War era when we started to get this really insane, I think it's probably McCarthy. We probably should blame McCarthy for creating this level of, complexity around, who gets into the country. This paranoia that everyone is out to get us. Or we could blame Reagan and sort of this idea that, it's just this hyper-capitalism type thing that happened. Okay, so what do we got here? We got more stuff we don't need. Why are we carrying that? Likewise, why are we carrying this? And we got some crappy torches we don't need anymore. Let's do that. Let's see here. We can let these guys down. Sure. So I swear we do not usually talk this much about immigration. I think it just kind of came up and then I was wandered into it, and now we're talking about it. But normally we're talking about TLD. We're talking about artificial intelligence, actually, which is one of my obsessions. In a different way than I think a lot of people think about artificial intelligence. My undergraduate was in computer science. I worked for 5 years in the games industry, and then after that, should we just sleep here? I think we should just sleep here.
Feels like night is coming.
I think this is the warmest place we can be. Ooh, Wednesday debate. That's true, that debate's coming up. Yeah. I think I'm gonna try to make Wednesdays a night off for me, as I was saying before. I think what I want is to be able to, because it'll be 9 to 5 for me, but it's actually much longer than that because I'm taking the bus into school now. So basically I have to leave the house at 8 o'clock, and I will probably get home after 6 o'clock. And so then I'll be hungry and have dinner. So I think I will probably, I'll see if my roommate wants to do this, but I think we'll make Wednesday our movie night. And so then we could just kind of unwind and relax on the Wednesday night. Hump day, right? Okay. And so, because I have a feeling I won't be a lot of fun on Wednesdays. I'll probably be pretty tired and burnt out. Yeah. Well, I am curious. I'll definitely watch sort of the reports afterwards and the clips from it. Because, I mean, it is really interesting where you have one candidate is basically a criminal and the other one is a criminal prosecutor. And it's like, this is what happens. This is Hollywood at its finest. You've finally crafted a ridiculous scenario for U.S. politics. Yeah, AI would classify humanity as a virus. That's actually, one of my high school classmates. I was never really his friend. One of my high school classmates kind of adopted that really negative, pessimistic view of humanity. It was like, yeah. But it is true. Like if you look at it from a purely objective level, most of what humanity from an ecological point of view, thinking about like its impact on the planet, on the environmental ecological systems, yeah, it is kind of a cancer, But that is kind of a sad view. I think what's different is that humanity has awareness of itself. Individual human beings, and collectively we can as well, can choose to do something different. Now, will we do something different? Will we choose a less destructive path? That remains to be seen. But we have awareness, and we have, power and intelligence. We could choose a path that creates an alternative. But greed and selfishness hinder that path. So our biggest enemy is ourselves. Which is pretty much what TLD teaches us too. Is like, your biggest enemy in this game is going to ultimately be yourself. Everything else you can figure out a way to manage, but stupidity, impatience, greed, hubris, you know, that pride where we think we're good enough to do something without taking all the precautions we should. Like right before we decided to sleep in here, I was about to walk across and cross over to the other cave on the other side in the dark, and thought maybe I'll even push through into Mystery Lake, and then I was like, I could. But you know what happens if I step out there in the blizzard and I make it to that second cave? That second cave's not as warm as this cave. I will have to spend a lot of fuel and a lot of effort to stay warm enough through the entire night. Otherwise I'll just end up freezing to death. Or I push on past that and risk, even though the path should be pretty straightforward, risking lost in the blizzard, turned around, wasting time, suffering damage from the cold. And it's like, not worth it. Not worth it. So we stayed put. And we lived another night. Yeah, greed overpowers almost everything. We're eating as if we're in a, if our baseline resource level is high, but the reality is it's baseline resource low. At least that's what my guess is right now here. I think so far this is what we figured out. We think our baseline resources are low. Our starting gear seems to have been medium. But, you know, harvestable plants have been pretty rare for the most part. Bear seems to be pretty low. And wolves have been kind of infrequent. Yeah. Let these continue to cure. Could hunt a rabbit. Hey! Welcome. Welcome, Macawelli. Been a while. Hope you're doing well. You know, I'm going to try giving a few shout-outs here and see who actually streams. I know Rootbeard's on a break and Roller. I don't think you've done anything recently, but we'll try Macawelli. That's a no. And then we'll try Vaca. Oops. Yep, I guess you're not streaming. Okay, so, hey, we tried. Shout out for future reference. Trying to get to the airport in DLC. So you made it up to, you were aiming for the Forsaken Airfield. That's a big area. It's a really big area. And it's so cold. Yeah, it's an interesting challenge just to get there. And then there's now, like from the transfer pass, you can get into not just the airfield, but you can also go to the zone of contamination. And yeah, and you could also go to the whatchamacallit, the, what's it called? The pass? What is it called? Not the last pass. What was it called? Lost Pass? What is that called? Sundered Pass, that's what it was. Sundered Pass. You can get the Sundered Pass through, yeah. Okay. Anyways, it was, I did a challenge recently where we spawned in Forsaken Airfield. And then had to make our way out. That was kind of messy, but interesting. Okay, got all our stuff. Weather is good. Yeah, zone of contamination is hard. Really, really hard. I mean, there's a lot to see. One of my more recent streams or runs, I ended up traveling a little bit more extensively in zone of contamination than I'd done before. I was doing another challenge. The first time I was in zone of contamination was just after they released it. And I was doing a challenge called Roll With It, in which, oh, I don't know, I picked this up. Roll With It, which is basically my challenge where every time we enter a new region, we roll a die and it tells us how many days we're going to stay there. So initially, like each major region is 1 to 10 days, and each transition zone or micro region is only 1 to 4. But after 50 days, 1 to 10 days for the major regions becomes 1 to 20 days. And the transition zones go up to 1 to 6 days. Then, after that, another 50 days pass, so on day 100, transition zones become 1 to 8 days, and day 150, transition zones become 1 to 10 days. So, yeah, you don't really want to be going through any transition zones late in the run, because the potential of getting stuck in a place with no resources for 10 days. Even worse if it's someplace like Crumbling Highway, where if you're going to Desolation Point, you're going to see it, go through it, and then have to come back, roll again, and if you go roll the 10 again, where are you getting your food? There's no food left in Crumbling Highway after you've eaten your way through it the first time. So, yeah. But anyways, the first time I went to Zone of Contamination was part of that challenge. I hadn't done it yet. So we walked into Zone of Contamination, and I had not done very much research at all. So I was doing it kind of blind. And we rolled 20 days. So we had to survive 20 days in Zone of Contamination. It was really an interesting challenge at that point. We got very lucky. We found a cave system to rest in, and then found we found some deer carcasses, and then eventually we got lucky and we killed the bear. And the bear was a fat bear, so we got lots of food off the bear, and that basically covered us for the 20 days. But it was, a few cattails here and there, some rabbits, some deer carcasses, and a big bear. Got us through. But yeah, so first time in Zone of Contamination, 20 days. I also did a misery challenge not too long ago. First time they offered misery, so I decided to give it a try. And we lasted 41 days, which is pretty good to begin with, but it was complicated by the fact that it was 41 days without a bedroll, because we never found a bedroll. And we also, we only found a hammer right at the end of the run, so we never actually, we crafted the arrowheads, but we never actually we died in the last stages of crafting the bow. So we starved to death in that one. So 41 days in misery with most of the afflictions. I think all but the last affliction. And no bedroll. That was a personal record. I'd never been 41 days with no bed. I think previous to that, my record was, I want to say like 28 or 30 days with no bedroll. It's not a record you actively try to beat. It's just a combination of bad luck and laziness that leads you into a situation where you have no bedroll. So like in my case, it's like always every region I went to look for the bedroll. It seemed that I had skipped the one spot where the bedroll was actually located. And so I go through most of the locations, and then I was in a rush to make it to the next location. And I skipped a location, and it was the location with the bedroll. Like someone afterwards looked it up and said, yeah, there was a bedroll in that location too. And that one too. We just kept not going to the right ones, you know. Like there was a bedroll, like a Mystery Lake. You had to climb up a rope climb in a corner of the lake that I never spent any time in. And I was like, and it's up in a cave, like in the back. And it's like, I never go there. I never check that location. I didn't even know there was a bedroll there. So. Yeah, the wolves in Zone of Contamination, not edible. Totally not edible. They're scrawny and they're poisoned. And so they're not edible at all. Can't live off of the wolves. Yeah, Zone of Contamination, if you have cooking 5, then try to find a bear to kill. That's your path out. Otherwise, it's a lot of scavenging, a lot of hunting or trapping deer, rabbits, and yeah, a fair bit of starving. Got enough sticks now. I think we should try to cook a maybe some pancakes, if we can still make some pancakes or bannock.
Come on, little fire.
Or oats, whatever we got. Porridge. Porridge. Back. So I'm still in the process of settling into this new apartment, but one of the things that I am really appreciating is how close we are to public transit. We've just like a block and a half from the SkyTrain, which is the metro line, the subway or train line. And you know, it's been really good. It's like, it sadly does not go directly to campus, otherwise it would be ideal. We do have a bus that runs to campus, but yeah, but the train does run us into, the next stop is at like a T&T, which is a Chinese mega grocery store, which is awesome because it also has a bakery, it has a butcher, and it has fresh meals there as well. You can order food, pre-cooked food, or they have a hot buffet as well that you can just buy food out of as well. So I went there and got a nice big lunch for myself, probably too big, it was a lot of food. But yeah, that was kind of nice to do today. Okay. Okay. These guys. And then later on, I was stopped by a Dollarama. So I'm trying, I don't know if anyone can hear the difference, but this is a bit of an experiment. I purchased some...
I'm not sure I can carry much more.
...foam poster boards. I'm still trying to get to work here properly, but and I put them on the wall. So like immediately in front of me and slightly to the side, to see if I can mitigate some of the reverb echo that's in this room. Because I still don't have a lot of things on the wall, so there's a lot of hard surfaces and sound bounces. And so that was one of the problems that I was noticing, that my voice ends up having more of a, you know, a tinny echo than it should. So hopefully this is cutting down on some of that. I might have to eventually get like a tapestry or something to hang in the background as another way to kind of cover some of the hard surfaces. So I'll think about that, see if there's something that jumps up. I have a couple like already possibilities. I just realized they may not always work. In the sense that they're kind of fun, but also they will probably not work in terms of having a professional background when I do actually have professional meetings with people. Which does happen. You know, I still do some consulting work. And next year I'll be on the market, so I'll probably have a fair number of Zoom interviews as well. But yeah, thinking about what I can put in the back there. Okay, so we looted up this area pretty well earlier. I think we just want to get to camp office. Camp office has a workbench we could use, except for we don't have anything to work on. Great. Hello, Wolf.
can drop any of this gear.
If you're not familiar with that trick, if you drop a torch in front of you, so it's between you and the wolf, and then threaten it with a weapon, and that weapon can be as simple as a rock. Then you can scare the wolf away most of the time. Now, if you're playing a custom run like I am, there is a possibility that the wolf fear setting may not actually cause the wolf to run away. I have not tested this out. But I think, according to what it says, that the wolf has no fear, no amount of threats is going to frighten off the wolf. You actually have to injure it. And that means having a weapon. And a few rocks is not a weapon. In terms of, like, actually hurting the wolf. So sticks and stones don't don't actually accomplish much here. Unless your stick happens to be a bow. Not a big fan of this type of fog, because I know there are wolves circling. I can't see them. Somewhere there's some wolves ahead. I think I forgot the other part of the story. So anyways, I went to this Dollarama not far away from where I'm at. And across the street, I was saying there's a Cantonese butcher and grocery. I ended up buying, maybe I did say this, anyways, about 2 pounds of like Chinese barbecue pork, which I'm really happy with. Because 2 pounds of Chinese barbecue pork is a lot of barbecue pork. That can go on rice, can go on noodles, can go in a sandwich. You know, there's lots of ways to use it. You know, make a steamed bun and put it on the inside of that. That's just good stuff. Farm goods. See that? There's a wolf over there. See? Wolves. We've been here before. Hey Rena, how's it going? School starts for me on Wednesday, although I'm back to work on tomorrow, so. How about you? How's your week looking? Did you enjoy your... You had a long weekend this
I need to
weekend?
find food.
I enjoyed mine. Oh. Two hours in a memorial service. I'm assuming someone close? Yeah. Yeah, that's sad when it comes suddenly, unexpectedly like that. We are, after all, at an age where stuff like that does happen. We, when I was in my PhD program, I think maybe just after I graduated, or maybe just, no, it would have been before. I can't remember. But yeah, one of the students passed away just it was heart failure. He had quit drinking and smoking just a year, like less than a year earlier, but there was a lot of damage already done, and I think his heart just couldn't take it. And he was like in his early 30s. It was just so unexpected, Yeah, and sometimes people, their hearts just fail, like even if they are like physically active, they're doing everything they're supposed to. There's just some sort of defect that causes the heart to fail in this unexpected way. Okay, yeah, thanks. I spent my Saturday with my new roommate using the public transit to get around downtown, where we spent most of the morning just hitting all the bookstores and used bookstores downtown Vancouver. Had a blast. Bought too many books. But no, it was good. I'm really lucky to have a roommate who is a reader, who also likes Korean and Japanese dramas, and also likes action films, and then also likes a lot of different international cuisine. So when we go shopping, it's like we have very similar tastes, and so we were able to split the grocery bill like right down the middle, which is great. It was great. So. I feel like we walked right past the camp office. Oh well, we'll just make it to Trappers, I think. Yeah, we're on our way to Trappers at this point. Yeah, no, I think it's something I definitely learned. I was mentioning this earlier before you joined us, that I think it's critical to invest time in relationships with the people that you live with. right? You know, even if you're just roommates, you know, there's something about working to build like a real sense of community and home with the people you're living with. Like it's an intentional community, like a chosen, you've made it into something that you're happy to spend time with these people. And so I think that's been a key part of it, is like I recognize that from, you know, there's more to it than just sharing rent. You know, there's also, you know, building real friendships. You know, turning the place that you live in into a home and not just simply a place where two strangers happen to share rent and a fridge and sleep at night. You know. Yeah, and we, since our taste in food is pretty much the same. It's like we don't have to divide up as much space. It's like a few things that they want, you know, that they prefer to have, and a few things that I prefer to have. But for the most part, it's just kind of open season. It's like, yeah, feel free to help yourself to this or that. And both of us are lactose intolerant, so we both prefer having oat milk. So it's like, oh, that's perfect. We don't have to crowd the fridge with like different types of milk. We're like, perfect. And they eat meat, so I'm not worried about like, oh, if I make something, will they want to eat it? Or they can't eat it. In this case, it's like, oh, they'll eat it. Oh. Oh, there's a big stretch. Big stretch, says Rena. Oh. Big stretch. Thank you. And a hydrate. Look at that. Refuel. Wasted. Oh, that's painful. We still have 28 matches. We're okay. How far are we into this now? 19 days, almost 20 days. Not quite halfway through this challenge. So. We gotta survive 50 days on this completely unknown custom code. And in the meantime, we also have to forge arrowheads and a knife, craft a bow, and make it to an exit at least 5 regions from where we started. You're playing a Puffin Eric Hooker. Oh.
I'm getting tired.
kind of cute. Puffin. One of my campaigns, my Sunday night campaign, has somehow become a bird-themed campaign. Like when they all created their characters, they ended up all choosing things that were either, like there's a Kenku and an Aarakocra, but there's also a fairy and and now we're adding a new person who is an Azamar. No. Doesn't have wings, but comes from an angelic race, right? There's a half-elf who's a grandmother type, and is cleric of the grave, you know. And meanwhile, the so seeing sort of this pattern emerge, and decided that the campaign would then revolve around the theft of, so someone has been stealing rare birds and exotic clothing that rare birds, expensive clothing that has that features exotic feathers, and someone's been collecting all these different sources of feathers for some reason, which turns out, you know, they catch the original, you know, feather thieves, only to discover that the feather thieves are working on commission. They've been hired by someone else, and that person is the tip of an iceberg of a larger conspiracy. Somehow tied to perhaps the creation of some sort of a magical item or artifact that needs all these feathers. But what could it be? What could it be? And then it wouldn't be one of my campaigns without extensive time spent inside of a sewer, which everyone hates. But they are also having regular run-ins with Discount Pete, which they have a love-hate relationship. So it was the campaign I'm tentatively called, or at least temporarily called, Birds of a Feather. Maybe I should make some, I don't know. How many extra guts do we have? If we have enough guts, maybe we should make ourselves some snares and just catch rabbits the easy way.
I'm not sure I can carry much more.
Finally force our way into this one. And it was empty the whole time. Oh, that sucks.
I could eat a horse.
Oh, it's a bandage, eh? Cleared this all out early on. Yeah, we probably should make some water here.
Come on, little fire. Come on.
Oh. Can't believe our break is all over already. I had high hopes of getting a lot more stuff done over the break. I thought maybe I would finish up one of my interactive fiction games. I really thought I was going to get my The Last Librarian game done, but I didn't. The amount of time I spent on move-related stuff over the summer was ridiculous. I just spent a lot of time hunting for the right apartment, hunting for, furnishings for the apartment, helping my new roommate settle in, and, showing them around the city. It just added up. And they're all good things, but it meant that I didn't spend near as much time working on my game or my games. And then the other part of that, of course, was that, I still, even though like part of the summer I had no classes, the other part of the summer I had one class, and I was working 25 hours a week, most weeks. Which really didn't leave me with a lot of time to work on the game. Because I could work on the game, more on the game, if I did less work, but I get paid for work. I don't get paid to work on the game. And then what else was there? Oh, and then it was just there were always other things I needed to do in the blocks of time when I wasn't working. So, yeah. Not forgotten, but definitely a bit of a challenge to get caught up on that project. But the other project that I've started up is converting the Temple of Pythagoras text adventure game that we wrote for my Python class into something that can be a standalone Python game, which requires me to learn Pygame, which has not been too bad so far, using that library, and also requires me to do a lot of rewriting of the code to make it even more modular. One of the things I have realized is just that, the way we had done it originally was not going to work. It was just dependent on a lot of things that I wouldn't say are best coding practice. They're not wrong, they're not terrible, they're just not the best. So I've been trying to fix it. So, for instance, each item object, each item object and container object, each item object and each room object have their own internal parsers, basically handle scripts, but the code is very similar. So really what I should have done is I should have had a separate parser that the individual objects will call out to process and then just receive commands from. So I've got to rewrite that so that I'm not maintaining code in multiple places, but instead have one place where it's just handling parsing the external scripts. So yeah, it was totally a season. And I was talking to visited one of the bookstores I visited on Saturday. One of my poet friends happens to work at, and he happened to be working that particular day. So we had a good conversation about writing and seasons of writing and why it's okay not to write sometimes, and why so it was just it was good to have that conversation and be reminded that it's okay to move through these different phases of your writing, including the phase in which you sometimes are not writing as much and you're working on other things that don't necessarily look the same as poetry. As a poet, you're kind of used to thinking I got to keep writing. Oh, I guess the other part of it was like we had this conversation about how we can fall into the trap of only thinking about writing books. Like everything has to serve a book or a project. And when we get into that trap, we lose the joy of just writing for fun and seeing how language works and seeing where an idea might go and not worrying about whether or not it actually fits within some sort of preconceived plan. Yeah, I mean, you can't force the passion. And when you do, when it becomes like sort of like I'm working on this project that contains these type of pieces, therefore I have to write these specific pieces. There's a really big risk that what is produced is functional but not compelling. That's actually the comment I wouldn't always say that, but it was how I'd evaluate some of the poems that would come through, that I could tell, like when I was writing a literary journal, I'd read a lot of submissions, and there were certainly poems that came from talented writers, like really well educated, really well read, really well practiced writers, that I could see a level of craft in, and at the same time, there was something distinctly missing that made it feel empty. So I would often think to myself, this is competent, but not compelling. It's competent. It's clear that this person is a good writer in sort of the technical side of things, or maybe even on the craft side of like being able to turn good phrases and make all the moves that would make this feel like a poem. And yet somehow it's not compelling. Somehow it just doesn't speak, in a way that resonates with us on a very human, basic level. Something is missing. And it's often because it's become a task, a chore, an exercise, a routine. It's a pattern. And when we just go through the motions of the pattern and we forget why we're doing it, it's no longer poetry. It's no longer art. It's just practice.
Can you eat trees?
Can we eat trees? That's a good question. It's a good question to ask. Can we eat trees? I'm going to try to make some more porridge. Add some coffee to this. Alright, take that, take this. How many torches do we have right now? Okay, Astrid. Good time. Yep. 20 hours. I think we might get to 21 hours before we wrap up here. We still have sleep time in us. Let's get more sleep in. Okay. Now we've got to put down the saplings. Oh, well. C'est la vie. Oh, and we forgot to check and see how much we have in terms of guts. We got plenty of guts. Okay. So I think what we should do here should we make a snare? Minutes, nice and simple. See, we do not have enough food supplies right now. So I'm wondering if it's better for us to do a little work in this area. I think maybe we have to make a trip to go through the cave, grab all the cattails.
I wonder if I can drop any of this gear.
How heavy are we? 41. Okay, so I think what we'll do is we'll leave these guys out. We'll drop all our extra stuff here. Oops. Okay, so we can make our large portion.
I need to find food.
We stash our feathers in here too.
I'm not sure I can carry much more.
Okay. So we do want to go to Forlorn Muskeg, but we do also need to build up a little bit better food situation for ourselves. So what we're going to do is we're going to Go through the cave, grab the cattails on the other side.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Come back. It's not much. It's a start. And maybe when we return, we'll find that rabbits have filled up our snares over here.
And this pack is getting kind of heavy.
We may even push all the way into Mystery Lake. Hey Laszlo, how's it going? Or not Mystery Lake, Milton. We're doing our You Know Nothing, Astrid, version 2.0 challenge. So we have a custom run with a code that we don't know that reflects something in between Stalker and Interloper. How have you been, Laszlo? What have you been up to? I'm counting down the hours before the new semester officially starts.
I wonder if I can drop any of this gear.
Classes start for me on Wednesday, but the semester actually starts tomorrow. And it's back to work tomorrow. Yep. Yeah, I refined it a bit. Took advice from a few other people, and if you want to try it again, the new version of it is allows you to select the ballpark difficulty setting you want. I will say if you select Interloper, you'll get a challenge that is at minimum Interloper. So those are really hard custom codes. Some of them are really, really hard. Yeah. Or you could just use the custom setting generator and get a list of settings, and
I'm not sure I can carry much
you'll
more.
see what you get. So yeah, the custom setting generator in the mode where it just shows you all the different settings that it generates will also give a rating on the difficulty. So it will tell you if it is a standard or medium or high difficulty within sort of like that range. So if you like say Stalker, it produces a numeric value for each one, a difficulty ranking, and then it tells you where it fits into the range between, you know, that level and the next level. Boy. Oh, I almost fell off the edge. Okay, here we are. We're doing for food. 14, it's not much. We go down. Okay, here we go. It's a low chance. So what happens with, so how it works is that if you choose like Interloper, it starts with Interloper settings as the bare minimum, and then it randomly goes through and selects a setting, and then it tries to bump it up one notch. And then it chooses another setting and bumps that up one notch. So it's randomly choosing through all the settings. It's also checking to see if a setting's already maxed out. If it's already maxed out, it chooses a different setting. And so, yeah. And the settings are weighted differently. So some things are expensive to bump up. And so they're less likely to increase. And others are weighted pretty lowly. You know, they're just given a single rating and so a 1. And it means that they'll bump up most often. Yeah. I'm going to show you guys how it works. You know, happy to do a little demo again. Anyone's curious. But it was like a full rewrite from the previous version. Just reconceive how it handled it. Handled the task of randomizing and generating. Where are these rabbits?
This will come in handy.
Gotta avoid losing our well-fed. This guy's further back. Please have food on you. Nope. Yeah, I'm pretty tired too, so we're gonna wrap up soon, but we'll do a couple things before we go. Set this thing on fire, and then we'll take an hour nap. But yeah, we're gonna wrap up here soon. We're past the 2-hour mark for me, which
Come on,
is usually what
Come
I
on.
aim for, 2 to 2.5 hours of streaming. Not super long. You can see the backed up. A lot of these are archived on YouTube now. Although there was a couple times where we were having some problems and the YouTube archive did not work. But okay, let's see here. I think we can put on. Alright, so we're just going to sleep for an hour. That saves our place. We are on day 20. Still a ways away from where we want to be, but we'll take it. Let's see here. Okay, so let's see if we can pull up our generator. Okay, so we see this. This is the generator as it exists right now. This is version 2.2. You can find the original over here. Oh, it's like original over here, sorry. And this one just randomly chooses, but this is pure randomness, which means that the end result tends to be more like a Voyager or even Stalker level difficulty. But it's, if you average everything out, you'll actually get something right in the middle. I don't know why I didn't think about that before. So it didn't feel like I would get very many Interloper level difficulties. So now we have this system where I click on this and it starts with whatever the baseline Interloper settings are, and then it proceeds to look at the difference. So there's a standard, how can I put it? So the baseline Interloper difficulty settings, or any difficulty setting we choose, Voyager, Pilgrim, I've gone through and calculated what the baseline difficulty ranking is. And then I generate a number that is a difficulty ranking number that is between, so if I were to select Stalker, for instance, this would be a number that would be between the minimum, the baseline minimum of what Stalker is like in the game, and the baseline minimum difficulty setting for Interloper. And it subtracts the two of them and it creates a budget. And then it randomly selects a number within that budget, and that becomes so that's the operational budget for how many points exist for bumping up these different settings. Now, some settings are pretty easy to bump up and some are pretty hard. Like Endless Night is expensive to bump up. So you're not expecting to see like a lot of Endless Night runs, but there will be some. And with bigger budgets, like in Stalker and Interloper, you're more likely to see an Endless Night run. So we go to Interloper here. It's still rare, but you will get some of the time. Let's see. One of these days it will show up. Come on. Don't make me into a liar. I know it happens. I've seen it happen. So these are things that I might go back and play with the weights on. Because if I feel like, well, Endless Night almost never shows up. Weird. I wonder if it's one of the ones where I accidentally have it flipped, so it's instead defaulting to no instead of... Oh, there it was. There was one. We saw it. It was a yes. So it seems to happen more often on Voyager and Stalker that we're getting yeses. Okay, so I'm going to have to go back and see if I accidentally have it flipped around so it's showing up more frequently here. I was saying that like I feel like the ones I've generated here tend to be harder at the Voyager Stalker level than the Interloper. Interloper is annoying because you often start like midnight. Midnight with Blizzard or something like that comes up a fair bit, which is a terrible way to start. But I mean, that's also how Nagoa starts. So, but instead, I changed it because of a request from someone else who had played through a few of these and said, like, rather than always having it choose Midnight and Blizzard as the hardest settings, why not make that random? Midnight could be the next to the hardest, but not the hardest. So anyway, so that's kind of what was happening there. I won't bore you with looking at the code. The code is tedious and probably not the best code. It was functional, right? Actually, I'm more proud of this than the first draft. I will say that. I think it's better written code, but still, yeah. Okay, so we can turn it on and off now, and we're going to read a poem as requested. So let's see here. Let's go to the poem reading space, and we will choose a random poem. Poem chooser, I choose you. Yeah. Okay, so For Sal, Paradise Lost in America. This is from my first book of poetry, way back when. Lost Country of Sight, published by Nhinga Press in 2008, winner of the 2007 Philip Levine Prize. And yeah, hey. This is for anyone who has ever read Jack Kerouac's On the Road, or who has ever had this sense of wandering through America, driving cross country and suddenly feeling completely lost. Let me not throw my glasses on the ground. Okay, so here we go. We'll read something. Read a poem, talk about the poem, wrap up for the night, raid someone else. For Sal, Paradise Lost in America. I could drive for days on end, heading nowhere but out of the city, out into a world of stone and wood, plow and rain, and some cast iron weather vane spinning me whichever way the wind blows. Go it alone, save only the static hum of the wheel-rutted roads and the heart-ticking balm of silence. A cradle of words, candle, camera, and pen, paper for fires, an arrow of stars, a bow of earth yearning. Tonight, I could be anywhere, a lone man in a car surrounded by ghosts. Outside my window, men and women and the dark cloud of America, like a house burning on a distant hill. I could be anywhere, scattering over the world. I tell myself how easy it would be to be lost in the middle of America, to be struck deaf, dumb, and blind by the star-splattered sky, and not know how to find my way home. There we go for Sal Paradise, Lost in America. Yeah, so a lot of this is kind of a nod back to Jack Kerouac's On the Road, as I said, which is really in its heart kind of, it's beat poetry. You know, it's kind of capturing that moment in beat poets and sort of this listlessness and restlessness of I think of a lot of America, and I think especially the book kind of captures restlessness in American men during that time period. But it also captures, I think, for all of us, a sense of rootlessness that is very much a part of our 20th, 21st century experience, and a sense that, especially in Los Angeles, I think, and other places where you have these communities built around cars, that you can spend all this time driving around in crowded spaces or in the middle of nowhere and feel completely alone, without having interacted with a human being in the course of your journey. And so I'm kind of tapping into that as well with this. It's just sort of after a while, the radios die out. There's no stations to listen to. There's no music. All you've got is the sound of the road and silence. And when you're traveling at night, it's just like, what else is out there? You have no idea who's doing what, where people are. And then at the same time, it's like you feel this weight of like, what is happening? I think like election years are like that too. You feel like, what in the world is happening? Everything's falling apart. Or we're on the verge of something completely different, which could be exciting or could be scary. In the middle of the pandemic, same thing too. It's like so much is happening, and is America a dark cloud on a burning, or a house burning on a hill? What is it? What is it? So anyways, that's kind of what's going on with that poem. Thank you for the request. Thank you for the bits, Rena, and thank you all for hanging out with me tonight. We are going to wrap up here shortly. Let us figure out who we can go raid. I think all our raiding stuff should work now. I was having problems last week, and I finally figured out that it had to do with old cookies, and the Twitch cache was all kind of corrupted, and so we moved on. We cleared it all out, and now everything seems to be working properly. Looking over the list of who is on tonight, I don't recognize anyone. Woohoo! What is going on? Let's see. True Irish Love. Doji Killa. Who is that? Augustus Fire. Somewhere in America. Let's see what this one's like. Not much talking. I don't know. We'll give it a try. We'll see how this works out. Augustus Fire. Let's see. So we'll rate this person here and see what's going on with their run. And then I'm going to probably pack up and head to bed. Okay, we'll try someone new who's trying our raid not set up properly. Are we going to have this problem again where it won't let me raid anyone? It's not letting me raid people. I don't know if we are having problems again, or if this person has their settings so we can't raid. I'm not certain what's going on. Yeah, they might be follower only. We have to follow first. Try it again. Usually it gives me a warning though if they can't, or not a warning, well, a notification if it won't load the raid. It's not, okay. Let's try this again. Okay, okay, so we'll try someone else because apparently we can't get that raid working. Try someone else. Otherwise, I think we're going to find ourselves again having to clear out our browser cache to try to make this work next time. Shouldn't have to clear the browser cache every single time. This is just kind of annoying. Yeah, it's Twitch chat. Why are you not letting me raid? It won't bring up the raids. Yeah, I think we're going to just pack it in and say, sorry, we can't get the raids working again. I wonder, final thought here, we'll try another approach. See if we can get the raid working on a different browser. Okay, let's see if it will work on a different browser. Yeah, I feel like it's getting a little bit annoying. Let's go back to our original plan because I'm listening to this person play and I think there might be someone else. Okay, we'll try this once again to go back to Augustus and really want to get this raid working. So we're going to try raiding with a different browser. No, it doesn't really matter which browser I'm on. It just won't raid. That's so annoying. Okay, so I guess we're wrapping up without a raid. I'm sorry. I would recommend a lot of other people, but apparently Twitch is being weird. So we'll figure out something next time. Yeah, good night all. Take care. We'll be back again soon.